Howdy, howdy, howdy. Let me just. Howdy, howdy, guys. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing well. I'm just gonna fix something. I think we're live. Hello, Thomas. How are you doing? I think I have COVID, so that's pretty fucked up, I would say. I'm not feeling great. Just have like a massive headache, and I'm tired, and I have like it's like a little cough, like a little throat. I have a little bit of a sore throat, to be honest. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now. A little messed up, and I said, what better thing to do than than a stream? Gosh, and I have a runny nose. It's like the entire thing. Goes good. Hope you're doing well. Well, I think I'm glad to have COVID because I rather, apparently this new strain of COVID is like very contagious. So I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna get exposed to it anyway, so I might as well just deal with it, right? I'm vaccinated. I have one shot. Well, I have the Johnson and Johnson. I had it back in July in Houston, and I'm just waiting for like a booster shot. But here in Mexico, it's not like they're not administrating booster shots right now. So yeah, I think I'm good. I'm young. I think I'm healthy, so it's not a big deal, to be honest. What are my glasses? I feel kind of weird without my glasses. Ah. But yeah, everything everything cool. And I think I look like shit because I haven't. It's just morning. Well, morning. It's like 1:13 p.m. So it's not really morning, but I woke up like an hour ago. And I didn't do my hair, didn't shower. I just feel sick, man. I just feel like I have a flu. I feel like I have the flu. It's not particularly bad, but I don't feel pretty good either, right? So it's whatever, man. So I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope none of y'all have COVID, because it's messed up. And I'm hungry. I'm hungry as fuck. I've heard that most people say the new variant is like having a bad cold. Yeah, I think so. I think most people that have had this variant, it's just like crazy because when you look at for example, the new cases, it's like crazy. Let's see. I think the US is having like a million cases per day. Look, it's holy shit, it's absolutely insane. So there we go. Here's the graph for the world, and now we are having between 2.7, 2.5 million cases per day. So I think this strain of COVID is extremely contagious, and it's just bad, man. Like it's fucking terrible. Although the deaths are even decreasing a little bit. So it's not particularly bad when it comes to deaths. But yeah, I don't know, man. So the USA, of course, 61 million COVID cases, and can we see? Can we see the graph? There we go. This is pretty bad. This is the US graph, so you can see the first wave, then the second wave, then we have like a little third wave, and this is sort of a fourth wave. I mean, it's insane. 800,000 cases per day. It's fucking bad. Active cases, yeah, just a really bad growth. So yeah, I mean, I think we're just gonna have to live with this. To be honest, I don't see. I don't think people can escape this variant. It's just so fucking contagious. I don't know. I mean, I take care of myself. You know, I wear a mask. I try to not go out unless I have to. I really don't know where I got sick. I don't know where I got it. So Mexico, I think we're doing. Well, no, holy shit. I think we're doing bad. Yeah, it's been getting really bad here. I know, right? I hope you guys stay safe, really. I think that's gonna. It's been spreading fast in the UK too. Less deaths than other variants. Government said we will have to live with it. Wow, really? The government is actually saying that you have to live with it. I think I've heard other governments too, but it's just insane. I mean, like I said, I rather have it now and just deal with it now than wait to get it later. And I think literally all the countries are gonna get infected really quick. But yeah, Mexico is doing really bad. As you can see the first wave, second wave, third wave, and I guess this is like a fourth wave. Let's see the UK. How are you guys doing over there? Oh, UK, holy shit. Whoa. Whoa. That is quite something. 218,000 cases in the UK. It well, January 9th, 141,000 cases. So yeah, I'm not a doctor and I don't want to talk about this. I know it sometimes gets really political. I am obviously a huge believer that the pandemic is real and we all should be careful. But I also want this to be over. I just want to have a normal life. I want my life back. I'm a young guy, so I want to go out and have fun. And this COVID thing has really uh, affected me personally. Obviously, if you don't know, I have a video on how my grandfather died of COVID-19 last year, and I just want this shit to be over. I'm just fucking tired of the pandemic. It's rough. I think we all got more alone this year than other years. So yeah, I hope you guys stay safe. I hope none of y'all get sick, and if you get sick, then it doesn't get bad. I think we're just gonna have to live with this, and I just hope it's not bad for you guys and for everyone. I think it's good. I think it's really good news that it's getting less deadly. And then again, I'm not a doctor, but I just think it becoming less deadly is a good thing. Holy shit, we are aiming for herd immunity in Denmark. We try to make everyone ill except the elderly. We're waiting for corona. Holy shit. Well, that must be quite scary, the government trying to make you sick. It's just scary times, man. Honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest. I kind of freaked out when I had my sore throat. I was like, "Oh shit!" I was scared, guys. I'm still scared. Like, it's very unlikely, but I could die. I could technically die. Of course, it'd be like extremely unlikely that a young, healthy, vaccinated dude would die, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. And just the idea of being intubated in a hospital, it's just really hunts me. It hunts me. So you guys in Denmark must be that must be really divisive. The government wanting to reach for herd immunity, but I just think that's how it's gonna be, whether we want it or not. Here in Mexico, I was on Reddit our Mexico, and there's a lot of memes of people saying, "Oh, I'm sick. I'm literally sick." So I think a lot of people are getting sick right now, but I think we are six on the stream. I think we can start with the reaction and stop with a depressing COVID talk. I would love more to talk about politics and news, but I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. But if you guys ever get COVID, talk to your doctor, stay hydrated. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to, have some water, some food. I'm just going to isolate myself for the next, I'm hoping 7 to 14 days. And that sounds like a long time, right? So, shit, I feel tired, man. Let's watch why most humans live inside this small circle. Now, I think I've seen this meme. Well, it's not really a meme. It's like a picture of, the circle surrounding India and China and Southeast Asia, and half of everyone is in here. And I think we all know that China has a lot of people, India has a lot of people. I think they combined have like a third of the world population. So it makes sense that this small circle includes half of everyone. So this is a new video from Real Life Lore. And if you guys don't mind, let's start.
This video is made possible by...
Oh shit, I always have the same problem, dude. I have to run the audio through my headphones instead from the speakers. It's okay, it's fine. It's not really bad.
HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com and use the code RealLifeLore16 to get 16 free meals, including free shipping. Here's a question for you to think about. What is the smallest circle that you can create on the Earth's surface that has more people living within it than outside of it?
Well, that's interesting.
You may be tempted
The
to place
smallest
the center of your circle in the middle of Times Square in New York City. After all, more than 300,000 people will walk through this square every single day. The epicenter of an urban area with more than 20 million people and the beating heart of the world's most powerful country. The New York City metropolitan area has more people within it than 70% of the world's countries do. And so, you'd be pretty forgiven for thinking that it's at the epicenter of the world's population. And yet, despite all of that, it's really nowhere near the true center of the world, which is arguably over on the other side of the planet.
Has anyone been to New York? I haven't, but a lot of people have told me that it's crazy. It has a lot of people.
At Mongket, Burma. This is a relatively small town of only about 40,000 people, and it's rarely visited by any tourists. And
this is the center of the world?
If you drew out a circle from here with a radius of 3,300 kilometers, with Mongket precisely in the center, you will find that this is actually the smallest circle you could create that contains more people inside of it than outside of it.
Okay, so...
This fascinating that contains more...
So we're talking about most of China, not all of India, parts of Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, parts of Indonesia, most of Malaysia, most, if not all, of the Philippines, and just like a little tip of South Korea, and that's it.
People inside of it.
That's where half of the people live.
This fascinating phenomenon was first realized back in 2013 when a Reddit user going by the name of Valerie Pyrus,
of course it's a Reddit user, dude,
known in real life as Ken Myers, posted a very similar map with a very similar idea that looked like
exactly. Yeah, this is the one I've seen, and I think maybe you guys have seen it on the internet or Instagram, Reddit. There are more people living inside the circle than outside of it, and it's very small. But this one is different. This one includes South Korea, North Korea, all of Japan. So it's a little different.
This map was centered instead over the South China Sea. And with only a 4,000 kilometer radius, it only included parts of 21 countries and was shockingly small, excluding the entirety of Europe, North America, South America, Africa, Australia, and even most of Asia.
Which is crazy because most of us, the ones who are on this stream, are either from Europe or North America or South America. So it's kind of crazy that we are all excluded from this very small piece of land where most of the people in this
Massive
planet
countries
live.
like the United States, Brazil, Egypt, and Russia were nearly entirely left out. And as a result, the claim spread like wildfire through.
You should watch Why China's Largest Volcano Unusual. It covers a lot of things, and especially why China has so much farmland.
Throughout the internet and news media.
Yeah, we'll
Ever
probably
since,
watch
the claim
that.
has been backed up by nearly everyone, from the Washington Post to professors from the London School of Economics. Wow. So, how does the math all break down?
People took this
well,
way
for
too
starters,
seriously.
The circle includes the entirety of China and India, the world's two most populous countries that, when combined, are home to 2.8 billion people and more than 35% of the entire human population. Already on their own, China and India combined have more people than the entirety of Africa, Europe, North America, and Australia all combined. But there's many more highly populated areas within the circle than that. Most of Pakistan is included with her 225 million people. Bangladesh adds 172 million. Japan adds another 125 million. The Philippines adds a further 111 million. Vietnam, another 98 million. The Korean Peninsula, another 77 million.
Another epic stream. Thank you, my friend. How are you doing?
Well, the
I hope none of y'all have
Sumatra
COVID
and Borneo
because it fucking
all
sucks.
add together another insane 220 million. The small island of Java alone, roughly the same size as the
Java
US
has
state
a lot
of
of people,
Louisiana,
yeah.
is the world's most populated island, with nearly 148 million people calling it home, which is a higher population than the entirety of Russia, all crammed together on an island that's smaller than Louisiana. But what's also fascinating is that the
It's
circle
just so insane to imagine that much people put together. I have a few friends that have traveled to India, and they have mixed reactions. And of course, I don't want to be insulting to India or anything, but there's just a lot of people. That's just a lot of people. And I live in Mexico City, all right? I live in a city that has a shit ton of people, but a lot of these places just have absurd amounts of people.
A lot of empty areas too. It includes nearly the entirety of
Mongolia,
the world's most sparsely populated country, where on average
like
you
2
only
people
find
per
2
kilometer,
people for every square kilometer of land. It also includes Tibet and Xinjiang within China, 2 areas that, when combined, have a very similar land area to the entirety of India, but only being home to less than 30 million people. Further, the circle contains even more water than actual land, which of course is empty. And then,
what's the population of Mexico? It's like 130 million, so it's a lot, but it's very spread out. Well, kind of, not really.
Besides just for the astonishing fact of its existence, the circle has many other mind-blowing aspects to it as well. For one, there are many more Hindus, Buddhists, and Muslims within the circle than there are outside of it. For
that
Hindus
makes sense.
And Buddhists, that makes a lot of sense, but for Muslims, it's pretty shocking because the circle excludes the entirety of the Middle East and the Arab world.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because most people think of the Middle East as like the place where most Muslims live, but that's not true. India, Pakistan, Indonesia, Bangladesh, these are some of the places with the highest amounts of Muslims. And I think Nigeria also has a lot of Muslims.
Areas that are more often considered to be the epicenters of the Islamic faith. This is largely because of the enormous Muslim populations of just 4 countries that are
India,
largely
Pakistan,
within the
Bangladesh,
circle.
and Indonesia.
Indonesia, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, which, when all combined, are home to nearly 800 billion Muslims, which is nearly twice the number of Muslims who live across the entire Middle East and North Africa. The Indian state of Uttar Pradesh alone has a Muslim population of only about 19%. But that's still nearly 44 million Muslims, and is a higher Muslim population than any Muslim-majority country in the world, besides for Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Iran, and Turkey. Further, China has more Muslims than the entirety of Syria, and when you add them in...
Wow. Oof. Yeah, this is just interesting. Real life lore is really good at taking all this small statistics and like putting in them together. Nigeria split about half and half between Christianity and Islam. Shit. So a lot of Christians and a lot of Muslims. I think that's why they have a lot of conflict, right? I think Nigeria is, I don't know if it's a full-on civil war, but they just have a lot of regional conflicts, I think.
Along with the tens of millions of other Muslims within the circle across Malaysia and the Philippines, you easily get to a figure of more Muslims living within the circle than outside of it, making Southern and Southeast Asia the real epicenters of the Islamic population. In 2015, the Valerie Pyrrhus claim was verified by London School of Economics professor of economics and international development, Danny Hua. But
bro, this meme was taken way too seriously. You got people from the London School of Economics making the
was
calculations.
interested in pushing the experiment even further beyond Myers's original idea. He found that not only was Valley Pyrrhus correct, but that if he adjusted the placement of the circle just a little bit, he could actually shrink it while having the inside of the circle still contain half of the world's population. When doing this, he gave his new circle a smaller 3,300 kilometer radius, surrounding the Burmese township Mongket, henceforth making Mongket the physical center of most of the world's population. Hua's new map, placed atop a 3D globe, is even more fascinating. Half of the people in the entire world living right now are all inside of this small circle. And unlike the old map, it almost entirely excludes Japan as well, the world's 11th most populous nation. But the existence of the circle only begs another.
You should Google the Wikipedia page for the Nigerian Civil War. Oh shit, so it's actually like a civil war. All right. Oh shit, this is actually really interesting. So you got Nigeria on one side and Egypt on that same side with air support. And then you have Biafra, the Republic of Benin, foreign mercenaries. What the hell is Biafra? Oh, it's like a secessionist state in Nigeria. Oh, cool. Got it. Well, it doesn't look like it's based on religious. No, it's probably based on religion, right? Or at least part of it.
Question: how did most of the world's population end up being inside of it? Well, the circle is centered over a large part of Asia, and this is where the majority of the human population has been now for thousands of years, at least as far back as 1000 BCE. The closest that any other continent has come so far in the past 3,000 years to Asia's population was Europe at
I see stories all the time about groups targeting Christian schools in Nigeria where they kidnap dozens or hundreds of kids for ransom. That's insane. Yeah, religious warfare is the worst kind of warfare, and you know it's especially bad when you target kids. I've read some stories too of the terrorist groups targeting Christians in Nigeria, which is insane.
the turn of the 20th century, and even then, Europe's total population was only 43% of Asia's total population. Fast forward 120 years to the present, and that percentage has shrunk down to less than 17%
Wow.
of Asia's population today. Even if you go all the way back to 1700, India and China alone accounted for a little more than half of the entire world's population, with more
Holy
than
shit,
one
when?
Hey, even if you go all the way back to 1700, India and China alone accounted for a little more than half of the entire world's population.
So I think he's trying
with
to
more than 150 million people each. And over the 3 centuries of history,
I think he's trying to say that China and India have always had a lot of people. It's just not like a new phenomenon. They have always been the world's most populated countries. I think that's what he's trying to say. This is weird. On the mobile page for the Nigerian Civil War, it lists the foreign support. That's what I was referring to. Don't know why it didn't show up. I could Google it on my phone when we finish this video. By that logic, Africa is the center of Christianity and not the Vatican, Europe, or the Americas because of the 600 million Christians in Africa. But that's the thing. But I don't think Africa has more Christians than Europe or North America. Like when you combine North America, South America, Europe, I'm sure you get way over 1 billion Christians. So that's more Christians living outside Africa than inside Africa. While on the other hand, that circle has more Muslims than outside that circle.
Since both have added more than 1 billion additional people. So, for about the past 3,000 years, this small circle that contains the majority of humanity has remained more or less constant in the same general location. Despite both adding more than 1 billion people to their populations, however, both India and China have been growing at more or less the exact same rate as the rest of the world over the past 300 years. That trend ultimately means that both India and China have so many more people than any other country today because they had so many more people than any other country did 300 years ago as well. In short, they simply had a much larger head start than any other country did. But okay, that doesn't really answer anything. The real question is, why did they have so many more people than anywhere else 300 years ago? The big two answers to that question are land and
rivers.
Food. China and India, measured by land, are both massive places, and they both have large rivers.
Yeah, this goes back to the beginning of civilization and how rivers basically stopped us from being nomads. And, because a lot of rivers mean a lot of farms. And you have the Yangtze, the Yellow Rivers, the Indus River Valley civilization. So definitely a lot of fertile land that allowed for a lot of people to live in.
That flow across easy-to-farm plains. Modern India has more arable land than any other country in the world. And unsurprisingly, China has the 4th highest amount behind Russia and the United States.
I actually didn't know that.
The reason why China had more people than either of those countries 300 years ago, though, is that Russia has a bit of a problem with the cold, and they mostly can't grow crops year-round, while the United States just simply didn't exist yet. So, once again, China simply had a bigger head start with thousands of years of farming and development over both Russia and the United States. All of this arable land, combined with the ability to grow crops on it year-round, enabled both Indian and Chinese civilization to simply be able to plant more farms than anywhere else, which meant more villagers, which meant more farms, which meant more villagers, and so on. And the crop that these places were primarily growing
rice. This is also true.
Which, when compared to other
this is also very important because the caloric intake that rice gives you is much higher than other crops that people in North America or Europe have grown. So basically you have a crops that apport a lot of calories and just some really good land to farm rice, and then you have a lot of people. That's the result. A lot of people. Sponsor time. Yeah, that looked like a game, right? Maybe he was like, that's the sponsor.
Wheat contains significantly more calories per acre. For most of human history and then even into the present, the most popular grain that was grown across the Middle East and Europe was wheat, which only produces about 4 million calories per acre.
Yeah, it's about
that
a
means that for every acre of farmland growing wheat, a civilization could only feed a little more than 6 citizens a year. Conversely, rice generates more like 11 million calories per acre, which means that when a civilization uses rice, every acre they use can feed more like 16 people. The choice between wheat and rice is obvious for population growth. When civilizations choose rice, as China and India and the other countries of East and Southeast Asia have, their acres of farmland can simply sustain more people than the civilizations who choose to farm wheat. And when they have the 1st and 4th highest amount of available farmland in the world, and they have the climate to farm year-round, it's not exactly hard to figure out why they've literally
No, that game was once the original Civilization games from the 90s, early 2000s. I remember I actually played one of those games. Well, I was born in the 90s, so like it was more of like the mid 2000s, but I remember those games. It's amazing to think that 3,000 years ago, China, Egypt, Greece, and others were so advanced for their time, while most of Europe, we were still living in small kingdoms and tribes. Yeah, that is true. That's true. Civilization has changed a lot, and it's just crazy to think, right?
Always had the highest number of people and will continue having the highest number of people for a very, very long time. A higher source of calories in the form of rice over thousands of years is one of the major reasons for the higher population of Asia today. And on a personal level, having easy
this
access
is the
to
sponsor
good, healthy food is
time,
one of
dude.
the primary factors to live.
Yeah, holy crap. We're talking about 2 full minutes of sponsor. Well, either way, you guys can support the original creator. I definitely am subscribed, and I'm gonna give this video a like. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to think that a lot of the areas of the world that are now poor were actually a lot more advanced 3,000 years ago than some of the areas that are now rich and wealthy. So yeah, I don't, it is what it is. A lot of people would have a lot of reasons to say why that's the case. History, war, colonization, economics. There's just a lot of reasons why that flipped. But I think that's a very complex issue. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know a documentary on how and why Europe developed so fast. Yeah, let me Google the Nigerian Civil War real quick. And we can see the foreign powers that were involved. There we go. Holy shit, that's actually true though. I don't know if you guys can look at the site, and you get a lot of fucking countries. You got Nigeria, supported by the UK, the Soviet Union, the US, Bulgaria, Ethiopia, Senegal, Somalia, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, the Congo, Niger, Algeria, and Saudi Arabia. And then you got have the Biafra state, the rebellious state in Nigeria, and then you have France. Surprisingly, like France was supporting the opposite side in the US. You got China, West Germany, Israel, Portugal, Spain, the Vatican City, South Africa, Rhodesia, Haiti. Haiti was like involved. It is insane. It is actually quite insane, dude. Uh, yeah, I don't know. That just let me. My mind is also, guys. If you see me a little bit off today, again, for the ones that didn't heard that, I have COVID, so I'm just like have like mental fog. I can't think completely straight. Oh shit, we have a new video of history matters. Let's
In
watch
World
it.
War One,
That has to be a meme. I honestly have no idea what's a meme nowadays.
both sides tried to recruit other nations.
The US and Soviet Union work on the same side. Yeah, that's true. A couple of times, and it was usually to dismantle European imperialism. That is true. I think it reminds me a lot of the Suez Crisis, where the Soviets and the US were like sort of together asking France and the UK to not mess with Egypt, It's worth thinking the US and USSR were supplying the same nation at the same time. Yeah, that didn't happen a lot
to
of
join them
times.
and tip the balance in their favour. The Ottomans, the Italians, and the Romanians being some of those enticed into joining the conflict. Yet Spain, a country of 20 million people at the time, managed to stay neutral throughout
The
the
motherland,
entire thing.
Spain.
Given that both sides were trying to bribe up new allies, why did Spain sit it out? Why did Spain stay neutral in the First World War? Before getting specific, it's important to note that as of 1914, Spain wasn't having a good time. Its economy was sluggish, it had barely industrialized, it was deeply divided internally, and militarily, things were worse. Just before the war, the Spanish had suffered military humiliation in Morocco when they tried to expand their influence there in 1909. They did manage to defeat the rebelling Moroccans eventually, but that wasn't until after numerous defeats and the sending of tens of thousands of troops to Morocco to defeat 1/20th of their number. And so, when Franz Ferdinand visited Sarajevo to try his hand at...
So yeah, I think the Spanish-American War was also important. It was fought, of course, in like the 1880s, so it wasn't that close to the First World War. But it just got to show you how underdeveloped Spain truly was.
Being assassinated, it wasn't long until World War I was well on its way. Spain immediately declared its neutrality and wanted nothing to do with the war.
I'm gonna take some candies.
The reason was simple. It felt that it had nothing to gain. The previous Spanish-American War had taught Spain that warfare was painful even if the fighting stayed away from the homeland. And for many, the potential gains weren't even that great. If they joined the Central Powers, then Spain could have potentially gained Gibraltar or something. But that would involve Spain having to go toe-to-toe with the well-equipped and well-trained Entente troops. And given the previous disaster
the Royal
in Morocco,
Navy,
Spain wasn't ready for that. And if Spain had joined the Entente, then it may have been able to gain some possessions in Africa or potentially in the Pacific, but the benefits would have been little and there was the potential for retaliation. Furthermore, Spain had no quarrel with of Germany or Austria-Hungary, nor did it have any feelings of kinship towards Serbia or Belgium, which gave them no reason to join. And even if the government had wanted to pick a side and ignored the risks, there was the second reason they didn't join: political instability. Spain's people were extremely divided. Between the assassination of the Archduke and the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, Spain had 9 governments headed by 4 different prime ministers. Each had preferences towards the Entente or the Central Powers, but all of them preferred neutrality for the third reason Spain stayed out of the war: cash. Being neutral meant that you could sell stuff to both sides, and Spain did very well for itself doing just that. It sold food and raw materials to the Entente and chemicals and textiles to the Central Powers. The influx of money saw Spain's industrialization speed up and Spain's gold reserves increase massively.
So I think the simple answer to this is it wasn't worth it.
And the fourth reason was that nobody else wanted Spain to join. The Central Powers wanted a neutral Spain which could be used for espionage and some trade. And the Entente wanted Spain to stay out of the war since they didn't want to share any of the potential spoils in Africa with them. And thus, neutrality was a simple risk-free option, but there were some issues. Germany sank Spanish shipping, which led to Prime Minister Alvaro de Figueroa getting fired when he tried to denounce Germany for it. And Spain was also threatened with invasion by the Entente when German troops fled into Spanish Guinea, and they didn't do much about it. Of course, Spain managed to maneuver through these issues and stay neutral throughout the war, and you would assume that the massive influx of money into Spain would make the lives of Spaniards better. But you would be wrong. Workers saw no wage rises, which led to more and more of them turning to anarchism or socialism to help. And when it became clear to farmers that it was much more profitable to sell food to Italy or France than it was to the Spanish, there were food shortages
it's just
too.
really interesting. Spain has been... Spain, as we know it, is a very recent phenomenon. Because for most of histories, and especially recent history, Spain was extremely underdeveloped and poor, especially compared to other parts of Europe. So, yeah, like a wealthy Spain is like a very recent thing.
And so it won't surprise you that even though Spain avoided the horrors of World War I, it entered the post-war world an even more divided nation. But that was a problem for another time. I hope you enjoyed this
Franco,
episode, and thank
Spanish
you for watching.
Civil
with the
War,
special
yeah. I don't know how people in Europe view the Spanish Civil War. Was it a big deal? Here in Mexico, we remember it as the motherland having some issues, and we took it was well over 50,000 Spanish refugees that came to Mexico from the Spanish Civil War, and there were Mexican soldiers sent to help. I don't know which side. The side, I don't know the names, but the opposite of Franco. Spain is like the anti-mean, everything they touch turned into poverty. Yeah, that's true though. Ask every country in Latin America, and that'd be extremely true. I wanted to watch a Drew Durnell video, so let's put this on hold. Fun fact, during the Spanish Civil War, a few thousand Irish Catholics went to help Franco. Could you watch how your ally Britain and maybe later Russia? Yeah, let me Google that. I'm gonna Google a couple of videos that you guys have recommended. Okay, this one was recommended. Your ally, Britain. Is it this one? Know your ally, Britain? Holy shit, it's 40 minutes. Is this the correct one? English fella reacts to, of course, dude. All the competition are reacting to this video. If countries were planets, I think that story from the front in Czech Legion taking over Russia, Trans-Siberian Railway is fascinating. I remember this video. It's really good. All right, let's watch it. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how long this stream is gonna be, but I do streams fairly regularly. So if we don't finish today, we'll finish tomorrow. So is this like a propaganda video? I'm guessing it is. Know your allies and know your enemies. It's a wartime video. Okay, perfect. For American soldiers. "24-hour stream." Yeah, that must be like a record, right? Longest stream ever. Damn, this is old school, bro. This is gonna turn into a video, so... Yeah, guns were used.
A man who made that touchdown. It was won by a team, and every man on the team had a share in winning it. We're playing another kind of a game now, only this one isn't for fun. It's for keeps.
Oh, damn.
And this game won't be won by any single player either.
I love the footage, the World War II footage.
A team called the United Nations. The ball will be carried by the men in the backfield. The tough little guy from China, Big Joe Russia, John Britain, and a guy called Yank. The four greatest backs in the world. So let's take a look at the men who carry the ball with us. Who are they? How do they live? What makes them tick? Let's start with the one that's toughest to understand. The one we know just enough about to confuse us. John Britain.
John Britain.
That's where he lives. A little island no larger than the state of Idaho. 500,000 people live in Idaho. 96 times that many live in Britain.
Wow. My great-grandma is 100 years old and still remembers the warriors like they were yesterday. She has high opinions of the Americans as they always behave themselves and help British civilians. Yeah, I could imagine so. The US and the UK have always been, well, not always, but, recently been very good allies.
But there are more people on a square mile of Britain than a square mile of Germany or Italy or Japan. More congestion than practically any place on Earth except the New York subway. Or a sardine can.
Very dense, yeah.
And that's a clue that explains a lot about John Britain. We build front porches on our houses because we didn't want to miss the chance to see our neighbors. But John Britain hides himself in a little box and plants a hedge around that to make sure he doesn't. Living that close to neighbors, privacy is part of the pursuit of happiness. And in the sardine can called Britain, they learn to get on with their neighbors. They have to. He's too damn close. That's why they have so little crime in Britain. Believe it or not.
Okay, so that's actually really interesting. I remember that in the UK, they refused to segregate their pubs to accommodate the American soldiers, and if the Americans made fun of a fuss about it, they would make the pubs black only to spite them. Wow.
In wartime, the British cop does not
that's
carry
cool,
a gun,
for sure.
nor does the professional crook. And in 1926, when the world heard of this stoppage of work in Britain,
people don't carry guns in the UK, okay, apparently. I've heard that. Police officers in Britain don't carry guns.
We were still more surprised next day to learn that the strikers were playing football with the cops. You can only understand that if you live in a sardine can.
A sardine can? I don't know how nice that is, you know.
Britain is more than 100 miles from the sea. Every day for hundreds of years, years of peace and years of war, John Britain has seen ships sail from his island to the seven seas. That means that whenever
Royal Navy, baby,
busts out of his sardine can, it's the sea that gets him. He's been busting out for hundreds of years, and that led to Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, Canada, And for that matter, the United States of America.
Yeah, that is true, though.
How did John Britton get on our team? Remember 1938? The Yankees won the pennant. Wrong way, Corrigan. The last trains ran on the 6th Avenue L. Well, John Britton got excited.
Only elite police units have guns. The rest have tasers. Wow. That is so foreign to me. Like, I'm just used to policemen carry weapons, especially in America. I mean, I don't live in America, but I travel a lot. And whew, it's scary, boy.
About the same sort of
it is scary.
The bet he had on the Derby, or, as he would say, the Derby. His job. His kids. Getting his exercise on his day off. Preston North End taking the football cup.
Football? Interesting. You know, he's calling it football.
We're cheering another kind of event.
Oh.
And in London and every other British city and town, they read about what was going on in Europe, and they got sore about it. But they were also pretty well determined.
Renewed violence in Germany, yeah.
Then,
so this was the time of Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain decided that he was gonna appease Hitler, and right now we are seeing Hitler demands Sudetenland annexation from Czechs, and yeah, not a great decision. Although I can't also blame him that much. You know, people wanted to avoid another war. Great thing. Same thing for my great grandfather. He was part of the Danish resistance against Germany. He was about to fight against Germans in Berlin, but the war ended. Sadly, he's dead now. Well, I'm so sorry for your loss, Gustav Mortensen. But those are cool stories for sure.
With France. And France had won with Britain. This might mean war, even though everyone was anxious to avoid it.
Yeah, that is true.
They'd been through one war, perhaps been wounded. Hundreds of thousands of their brothers and friends had been killed.
In World War I, yeah, that was very traumatic.
There was nothing beautiful to them about war, and they had no desire for another.
By this point, World War I was very recent.
The Prime Minister today flew to Munich.
All was well. Britain, France, Italy, and Germany were signing a pact at Munich. A pact in which the Germans agreed they had no further territorial claims to make. It was to be peace in our time. But it turned out to be a strange sort
Yeah,
of
the famous scene of Neville Chamberlain waving the signed paper, claiming that he was at peace with Germany, or that he just avoided a war, which sadly wouldn't be true.
First move was to break the pact he had signed.
Hitler invades Czechoslovakia.
Wishful thinking was ended. Now they knew something had to be done about Germany.
They approved the Conscription Act, the first peacetime conscription in British history, just as the Selective Service Act was the first in American history. The British had put their cards on the table. They had, in effect, said to Hitler,
"That's enough. If you go into Poland, we'll fight."
Hitler smiled. Like other would-be conquerors of Britain, Philip of Spain, Napoleon, Kaiser Wilhelm, he thought he understood the British. He didn't. The sleeping lion began to wake up.
Damn.
Lion for the first 6 months of the war. He snapped and growled. But he dropped more leaflets than bombs. He hoped that common sense would return to the German people, and that they would throw out Hitler and the German warlords. Instead,
at dawn this morning, the German armies, without warning, invaded the neutral countries of Luxembourg, Holland, and Belgium.
The King of the Belgians today surrendered his armies of more than 500,000 men.
Belgium,
Marshal Pétain, as French chief of state, has asked for an armistice. The issue of
France.
is ended.
Britain was alone. Czechoslovakia occupied, Poland defeated, Denmark gone, Norway gone, Holland, Belgium, France gone. Only Britain now.
Yeah, Hitler absolutely underestimated the British and their will to fight, and he thought they were gonna surrender. He thought, I think, because Britain rarely sees war at home because they're an island and they're very isolated, and Napoleon couldn't cross the channel across to England. World War One, there wasn't much. There wasn't any fighting in England. So now Hitler said, "Oh, if I scare them, they will surrender." Right? As we knew for later, they would never surrender. Literally, quite literally. My great grandmother dad was a World War One veteran. He also served in the Second World War. Imagine spending 4 years in war only to go to war for another 6 years. Must be a brutal experience serving on both of the most atrocious wars in human history.
Britain
Wow.
was alone.
Yeah, pretty scary.
Considered the war over. Everybody considered the war over except the British. At the 11th hour, the lion was finally.
Okay, are you guys having trouble with the stream? Okay, so I don't know. I'm getting an error on my part, but you know, you guys can tell me if the stream is okay. It's interesting that one of the black and white maps, instead of using red and blue that represents good guys and white bad, with black neutral with gray. Yeah, it is true. It is true. No, it's good, huh? Well, I guess it must be a YouTube thing. But if you see any error or glitch, you guys can tell me.
Aroused.
I'm not seeing any issues. Okay, perfect.
Whatever the cost may be, we shall fight.
On the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds.
In fields, in streets, and on the hills. We shall never
Surrender. I love that speech. Definitely one of my favorites.
For a year, they took everything that the Nazis could throw at them. For a solid year, from June 1940 to June of 1941.
The bombing of England, true, this was brutal.
Machine in the world. They took body blow after body blow. Solid punches before they even had their guard up. All they did was take it on the chin and hang on to the ropes.
Yeah, and this was one of the few times that England saw bombings. And this was really bad for the English people, but they never surrendered. They didn't. This didn't broke them.
Down.
They hold firm.
And while they buried their dead, they prepared grimly and defiantly for the day when they could strike back. There were no victories to cheer them on. Just defeat.
Hello, Fritos. How are you doing, my man?
Some heroic, like the beaches of Dunkirk.
Dunkirk,
Or
of
like
course.
the hills of Greece, where British soldiers landed to keep their pledge of honor to the Greek people.
What the hell are you watching? We're watching Know Your Ally, Britain. So this is a World War II video for American soldiers to get to know. It's more of getting to know the history of Britain, why they are in the war, what did they suffer.
Landed knowing they were facing overwhelming odds. But some less glorious. Hong Kong
And I have COVID, dude.
and Singapore and Burma. But through all these long months, the British people were thinking and planning and working only for the day when they themselves could take the offensive. And that day came.
Yo, shit, I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. You know, it's just a little sore throat and that's it. I wonder if the British actually thought they could win without America or the Soviets. People in charge must have been betting on one of them joining. Yeah, I think Winston Churchill was betting on America to join at some time. And I think after the invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa, the Soviets were pretty much in the war. So I think, yeah, Winston Churchill was pretty much betting on America to join at any time. Yeah, I will be reacting to Crowd, particularly the vodka video, the why vodka ruined Russia. Gosh, you just gotta love the footage of World War II. This is not. This is kind of rare.
Could be brought to German soil too. Day after day, night after night.
Munich, Nuremberg, Kiel. Yeah, of course. Because Hitler bombed London because of an accident, then the British felt they could bomb a lot of the German cities, right? Because the Germans bombed civilians, so now it was the British turn to bomb civilians. Churchill was reportedly happy that Germany attacked Russia since he had a friend in Europe fighting. Yeah. Berlin.
The offensive continues in greater and greater strength. That's in the air. And on the ground, 1,500 miles away in North Africa.
The scale of this war was insane. Fighting in Asia, Africa, Europe. I always talk about how Mexico joined World War II, El Alamein, the Battle of El Alamein, of course. I also wonder how the British really feel about the war because, yeah, they won, right? They were part of the Allies, they won, but at the same time, they paid a huge cost for the war, not only in people, but also in resources. And their empire started to crumble after the war. So, I wonder how they really see it. Yes, as a victory, but, it wasn't good for the country, right? They broke the German codes in 1940, so they knew Germany was going to attack the USSR within 2 years. Huh. I actually did not knew that. And of course, now talking about North Africa, the Australians did an amazing job on this front. I think it was the town of Tobruk, but I could be wrong. Which town the Australians fought, and of course the British as well as the people of the Commonwealth fought ferociously in North Africa, and this changed the war. Tripoli in Libya, yeah. But the footage is amazing. I'm glad that this is on YouTube, free for all of us to watch.
Miles in 120.
Anyone else having issues hearing the stream? I can't hear anything. Huh. Okay, well. Oh, never mind. It's fixed. Okay, cool, perfect.
1,700 miles of sand and wind and enemies. Once more, the people of Britain heard their church bells ring. More than 3 years earlier, they had been warned that this would be the signal of invasion. But long since the nightmare of the threat of invasion had passed. Now the bells rang out a song of thanksgiving, a song of victory.
Yeah. We are quite proud that we lasted as long as we did and that we were on the winning side. The war destroyed many British cities and towns. Oh, yeah, I could see that, yeah.
Now there's the plain and simple truth about Britain. But the fellow that calls the signals on the Axis team knows his only chance of winning is to split our team up. So his team plays a game at which they've had a lot of practice. A game which has conquered half a dozen countries for them. A game called divide and conquer. Men like these tell the British we aren't taking the war seriously. They tell the Russians we are letting them down. They tell the British the Russians will sell them out. And they tell us...
It is manifestly ridiculous for the warmonger Roosevelt to tell the American people that they have anything in common with the British. On the contrary.
What?
They are different in every respect.
There
are differences, that's true. For instance, we drive on the right side of the road. But in Britain...
Left. You are in Britain. Drive left. Oh. You are, it's a sign to remind the people, hey, you are in Britain, drive left.
We go for baseball.
The British go for football.
Cricket.
Or cricket. And soccer, of course. And rugby, is that a thing that you guys play in the UK?
Very well played, sir.
I mean, it does look kind of similar to baseball, doesn't it?
And anyone who ever drank coffee over there knows why there'll always be an England.
Is your coffee all right, sir?
It's about the tea. Yeah, not great.
Give us a glass of half and half. Have you heard about it, boys? Give us another glass of half and half. Blimey, you'd have thought it happened to poor old Bill. And another bloke here.
So I went in to sup my dinner, but it's Dacton buckets and I was getting swarge. He lad, that's bad.
And Main Tchaikovsky's smaller pianoforte works are past.
Are they kidding, Jack? Why the cockamamie sprinkling some schmaltz mixed with celery tonic?
Why do they all mush so much with corn cone in their mouth? You all can't understand a word they say.
Yes, there are differences. But
I mean, the Scottish accent is extremely... I personally can't understand it. Just straight up. Yeah, we'll play that as well.
Britain and America do have in common. And these are the important things of life. A little thing called a free representative government. We call it Congress.
Language, religion.
Parliament. A little thing called freedom of speech.
No, in the next war, you've not got to go to it. They'll bring the war to you. And the thing is, if you're taking it from me...
I just think it's really stupid to say that America and the UK are the opposite, or they are not similar. Like, come on.
Dorchester.
Come on.
Because the trenches are just outside.
This meeting is called under the auspices of the American Workers' Party, an organization dedicated to the organizing of the working class of America.
Freedom of the press. Freedom of religion. They may not be important to Hitler, but all these things are the common heritage
They
of John
joined
Republic and John Britain.
the UK and the
700
US.
years ago, their ancestors fought for the Magna Carta.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna take a bathroom break, so give me just a quick second, all right? I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Whew. Sorry, a lot of things have happened. I'm gonna have to go out in like an hour. So yeah, and I'm also, because I'm gonna have to go out, I'm also ordering some food. So yeah, it's gonna become a food stream. So I hope you guys don't mind that.
No one will we deny.
Let's continue. Thank you for the people that stayed.
300 years ago, the Petition of Right.
No man shall be compelled to yield any tax without act of Parliament.
These principles came to our own country with the earliest settlers, and from them developed.
Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble.
We may make gags about each other's accents, but we speak the same language of freedom. Even during
The same
American
language of
Revolution,
freedom,
when we were at
yeah.
each other's throats, the Earl of Chatham was free to say about us to the British Parliament,
You cannot but respect their cause and wish to make it your own.
and that is why in the heart of London, alongside his great naval hero, Nelson, John Britain has put
Admiral Nelson,
George
true.
Washington. And in Parliament Square, the most sacred spot in the British Commonwealth of Nations, Abraham Lincoln.
Of course, Hitler doesn't like this kind of talk. His job is to sell the British that we are a nation of money grubbers.
Money grabbers.
And gangsters.
British had a stereotype of being stubborn and hard, so we weren't going out without a fight.
That the British are gutless.
Damn straight.
The John Q. Public and John Britain are entirely different. All right, Hitler, where are these miners? Wales or West Virginia? These farmers, Devonshire or Wisconsin? These steel workers, Sheffield or Pittsburgh? These children, American or British, they live in lands which share the same hopes, the same ideals, and unlike the poor children of Germany, in lands where the truth is free.
Yeah, I could obviously see why they recorded a video like this, so the American soldiers would feel great about the British, or feel like, yeah, we're gonna defend the British.
But let's not kid ourselves. Britain is not the United States, and the United States is not Britain. For instance, we don't go in for this kind of thing. They do.
The
But
wigs,
there's no
yeah.
mystery about that. Remember our grandmother's house? It was old-fashioned, out of date, patched and altered to suit each new generation, and filled with family relics even grandmother couldn't explain. Well, John Britain has been living in his house for a long time. And that's why to us, who live in a modern house that we built ourselves to suit ourselves, John Britain seems slow-moving and cluttered up with ancient traditions. Kings, for instance. The present king rode to his coronation in the same coach, to the same church, for the same ceremony as his ancestors did. But the job he took on is very different from theirs. There have been some changes made, for the British king can no longer make laws or impose taxes or interfere with government. He and his family work as hard as any other citizen, doing the job that the people expect of them. Today, the
Is that
king
Queen
is the servant of the
Elizabeth?
people and not its ruler. When an American is arrested and brought to trial, the bailiff calls his case.
The people versus John Doe.
But if such a case were called in Britain, it would be...
The King versus John Doe.
It means the same thing. Today, the British king is the symbol of the people. The British are great fans of the fellow in Buckingham Palace. But when they sing God Save the King, they're not worrying about his health.
God save the
They
king.
mean
It's not
God
about the
bless
queen
British
back then.
people. And the dukes and the earls. But in 1911, the people took away the last remaining power of the lords to block the action of the people's representatives. Dukes and earls don't run the country anymore. Today, there are only two people who do that. John Britain and his wife. They go to the polls, just as Mr. and Mrs. John Q. Public do here, and elect their representatives to the House of Commons. And there they fix the taxes and make the law.
Very democratic.
And if John wanted to get rid of the lords, his representatives in Commons can at any time vote them out of existence. But John doesn't want to get rid of them. So he confuses us by keeping dukes and lords in a country where unions have long been accepted as an essential part of the democratic system, where the Labour Party controls.
Oh, I wonder what he's going to say about
one
unions.
of the two great political parties, where longshoremen and railroad engineers have been ministers of the crown, and where for 30 years he has had a system of social security even more extensive than our own.
True,
so when you read
true.
about Lord Louis Mountbatten or Lord Beaverbrook, former head of aircraft production, don't think they got their jobs because of their titles. They got them because they were the best men for the jobs. Just as Ernest Bevin, formerly a labor leader and now member of the War Cabinet, Herbert Morrison, who started life as an errand boy and is now Minister of Home Security.
The anthem changes every time we get a new monarch, so when the Queen goes, we'll have God Save the King again.
With the things on the surface, the unimportant things.
But that'll be an interesting change, though. People have saying God Save the Queen for like, what, 60, 70 years?
They run the same way. The democratic way. The free way.
But this gentleman never bothered about the truth. And when John Britain started carrying the war to Germany, he tried a new line.
The warmonger Churchill only wages this war against the German people to save the British Empire.
All right, let's take a look at that one. Here's the British Empire.
Ooh.
And here's where the Germans were headed when Britain declared war. Does that look like trying to save the empire? Tackling Germany when it was headed into Poland and toward Russia? The one direction in which there were no British possessions? After Poland fell,
You got wrecked, son.
Hitler hinted a peace with the British. This was the perfect chance to save the empire. But it wasn't saving the empire that the British were thinking about.
Anthony Eden, I think he would become prime minister, right?
In respect of any peace offer by Hitler. We are not
Been singing it for 70 years. This year since from February will be the 70 years since the Queen became the monarch.
And after Britain had been on the losing end, month after month, it had another chance to save the empire. Even now, Hitler thought John Britain would make a deal. We heard the British answer.
What kind of a people do they think we are?
The Churchill is back.
Is it possible they do not realize that we shall never cease to persevere against them until they have been
Yeah, Hitler was desperate to find peace. They wanted Britain to surrender.
And let's take a look at this British Empire. The freedom we fought for in 1776, Britain has since freely given to Canada, Australia, New Zealand,
And what, South Africa?
South Africa. These are independent nations with their own parliaments, their own laws, even their own money systems, their own tariffs, which often work to Britain's disadvantage, their own armies and navies. Britain couldn't...
I wonder if people will become a lot less fond of the royal family. I mean, it's easy to say, let them be when a sweet old lady's in charge, but when it's an old middle-aged dude, maybe not. That's an interesting question. I have no idea. I think the support for the monarchy will remain, but
Each one of the British Commonwealth
who knows,
nations
honestly.
declared war on Germany of its own free will.
Of course, no one ever talks about the British Empire today without mentioning India.
The crown jewel of the
In
empire.
Britain, as well as other countries, have been outspoken in their demands for Indian freedom. For no man who believes in
The
democracy...
queen will never die. You can look forward to singing it for thousands of
Many
years.
of us do not know about India. For instance, that India pays no taxes to Britain, either directly or indirectly. That the Indians fix their own tariff laws, frequently to Britain's disadvantage. That of the Viceroy's Executive Council, 11 of the 15 members are Indians. And in the courts, 10 of every 11 judges. Furthermore, that no Indian is ever conscripted for service in the Army and Navy. It was voluntary enlistment that raised the Indian Army from 170,000 at the outbreak of war to 1.25 million today.
Okay.
And on the subject of India, listen to the words of Field Marshal Jan Christian Smuts. He fought against the British 40 years ago, was defeated in his fight, and still became the leader of one of the British Commonwealths of Nations, Prime Minister of South Africa.
India, if she will, can be free in the same way and by the same means as Canada, Australia, and New Zealand are today free sovereign states. Their peoples worked out a constitution for themselves. The same course is open to India, if the peoples of India will agree about the terms of a free constitution.
Okay, interesting.
Freedom isn't a thing that can be imposed from without. It can only be created from within.
The Indians have a responsibility to reconcile the differences that exist in the vast Indian population, with its 100 different languages, its dozens of different religions. And on March the 11th, 1942, the British government placed itself on record and promised full self-government to India if India will work out a constitution that will satisfy its people after the war is over. But during
And that's
this
what
war,
happened.
military leaders
But then India was left with a whole new other conflict about Pakistan, East Pakistan, India. It wasn't really peaceful, but hey.
Keep the Nazis and Japs from uniting.
Oh, the Japs. Oh, come on, dude.
India provides the bases for United Nations bombers to get at the Japs in Burma. In other parts of the empire, too, democracy stands on guard. If it wasn't for the British at Gibraltar, Malta, Cyprus, Suez,
the Patriots,
Alexandria, and they're hanging on to them regardless of the cost, and their drive across Libya to Tripoli, there would have been no American landing in North Africa.
True, that is true. And the American landings in North Africa would eventually become an invasion of Sicily and southern Italy, which would be the first blow to like mainland Europe that Hitler would have. So, you know, it's a big deal.
There's another tune the Nazis play about the British Empire.
The British are sitting back, letting others fight the war for them.
Ooh, we know that tune very well. Britain will fight to the last Australian or Canadian or New Zealander. The truth that thousands of Canadians and Australians and New Zealanders have gallantly fought and gallantly died in Crete, in Greece, in Libya. But there's something the Nazi mouthpiece leaves out, something pretty important. Out of every 10 inhabitants of the British Empire, 1 comes from Britain. But of the casualties suffered so far in this war, 7 out of 10 were born and raised in Britain. 1 of 10 in population, 7 of 10 in casualties.
So yeah, they definitely struggled.
And in the air, of the planes
the Royal Air Force.
The RAF in Britain, 2 out of 3 are manned by crews from the island. And of the planes on the overseas fronts, the Western Desert in Africa and the rest, 4 out of 5 are manned by boys from Britain. And then there's a little thing called the British Navy. From 1588, when it licked the Spanish Armada, to 1940, when we got moving on a 2-ocean navy, the greatest battle fleet in the world. That, too, is manned almost entirely by men of Britain, the little island in the Atlantic, an island of seafarers. And the British
Royal Navy, of course, huge.
The greatest merchant navy in the world, in spite of all that Hitler can do. Men from every British town and village in the stokeholds of 10,000 ships, on ice-coated decks, in grimy engine rooms, men who have been torpedoed twice, 3 times. There's one English sailor who's been torpedoed 6 times and still signed on again.
But we
6
never hear
times.
about these things
Holy
because of a
shit.
curious character whose ways will never be completely understandable to an American. John Britton himself. He has an idea he shouldn't talk about himself and what he does.
John Britton.
He
And
calls
it's
bad
always
form.
this guy.
We call it damn silly. He'd say of a Spitfire,
Oh, she's not bad, little kite.
but this man, the boss of the German Air Force, can tell us that the Spitfire has been the most deadly fighter in the world.
Who was the leader of the German Air Force? Hummels? No.
Hello, Bob. Had a good trip?
Himmler, pardon, sorry. Hummels is the
Except that he
football
spent
player,
2
yeah.
days in the icy waters of the North Atlantic after being torpedoed on the way to Murmansk. See this man? His name is Whitten Brown. And this man, believe it or not, is the first man who flew the Atlantic non-stop. In 1919,
Okay.
8 years before anyone else, he and John Alcock flew non-stop from Newfoundland to Ireland. But as usual, the British let it go at that, and Whitten Brown went back into obscurity. There's nothing wrong with John Britton that a correspondence course in showmanship wouldn't cure.
Oh. My food, oh shit, I forgot. My food is outside, guys. Whew. All right. Sorry about that again, you know? It's just I'm hungry, man. This COVID thing makes you hungry. Hermann Göring was the head of the German Air Force. Yeah, true. Thanks for remembering me.
For a moment, imagine that you're not American, but British. You'd still be in uniform. For in Britain, every man between the age of 18 and 41, unless he cannot be replaced at a vital workbench, is already in uniform. Your old man, too. He's had to quit guessing about the last war, for they're now starting to draft men...
The people who had to serve on both wars?
Dependents or no dependents. If you've got yourself into this mess, your draft board will say, frightfully sorry, old chap, but you're in the Army anyway. And your kid sister, if she isn't a sailor, or in the Air Force, or the Land Army, or a ferry pilot, or in the fire brigade, she's probably in the Army. For they've drafted unmarried women up to 30. And even if she's married, every woman up to 41 can be drafted to work in war plants. And it's a real draft. For 8 million workers, men and women, can't quit their jobs or be fired without government permission. Britain is only 20 miles from German guns and German planes. Everybody, man or woman, young or old, is in the front line.
Maybe this isn't your idea of Britain. The ads were different, and you wondered whether they still made bows and arrows at the village forge. The ads kept quiet about industry, just as this one leaves out the aircraft plants and the oil fields. Well, they have the rich green fields you've read about, the quiet country lanes, but they also have the steel mills of Sheffield, the Pittsburgh of Britain. They have the picturesque little villages, the gently flowing streams, the lovely old castles. But they also have the shipyards of the River Clyde, not as modern as Henry Kaiser's, but still one of the greatest in the world. They have the old cathedrals, deathless reminders of a rich tradition. But they also have the great industrial cities of Birmingham, Glasgow, Manchester, Leeds. They seldom, if ever, saw an American tourist, but they made Britain, even in peacetime, one of the greatest industrial powers in the world. And in wartime, even as late as July 1942, this little island, no larger than the state of Idaho, was making more war goods than we were.
Wow.
Maybe you thought John Britain sat there and waited for us to send him planes and guns and tanks. Well, he's deeply grateful for what our Lend-Lease did for him. It saved his skin when he was in a tough spot. But today, Lend-Lease works in more ways than one. For today, John Britain himself furnishes planes.
My grandmother's older sister were evacuated to the countryside during the war. When the war ended, my great-grandfather went to get her. She could not remember what he looked like after 5 years apart. Damn, that's so sad.
Guns and tanks through the same Lend-Lease.
And I'm guessing a lot of kids had to go through that.
And his other allies all over the world. In Britain alone, our forces have received, free from the British, 1.5 million tons of food, clothing, and munitions, and 2.5 million tons of other materials. There's another thing you ought to know about Britain. If your unit gets sent there, you probably won't be invited out for supper or for a drink. That's not because the British don't want to entertain you. They haven't anything to entertain you with. Britain is mobilized for war, total war, and that means an end to civilian supplies. If you were a Britisher, you wouldn't expect your girl to use lipstick. There isn't any, except what we bring over as bait. She wouldn't be smartly
Okay, this is a
dressed,
little...
or clothes are rationed, severely rationed. It's very unlikely she wears stockings. for if she bought a pair of stockings a month, that would be all the clothes.
This didn't
of any
age so
kind
well,
she
I
could
guess.
buy. That's some rationing. We think our gas rationing is tough, but John Britton gets no gas at all. He goes to a pub to buy a bottle of whiskey. The pub keeper laughs in his
Scotch,
face.
the best whiskey out there.
Grain is needed for industrial alcohol. Industrial alcohol is needed for munitions. And nearly all the reserve stock of British whiskey is kept for sale to America to pay for the goods Britain buys here. For don't forget, besides Lend-Lease, Britain buys and pays for vast quantities of goods. And it was the cash purchases that Britain made before we entered the war that gave our munitions industry its start and enabled us to build it up in record time. He goes to buy a pack of cigarettes. There probably aren't any. But if there are,
2 shillings, please.
that's 40 cents for a pack of cigarettes. 12 cents represent the cost of the cigarettes. The other 28, the tax paid to the government. For Britain is going all out in taxation. Nobody is making any money out of this
And
war.
you know America don't like those
Industry is
taxes.
paying. Excess profits tax is 100%. Labor is paying. The man who earns $33 a week pays 29% income tax.
Wow.
And the rich man, if there are any of them left, pays an income tax of no less than 97.5%.
Whoa.
And then there's the little matter of food. There are not many fat men in
Yo,
England
that's-
nowadays. But John Britton isn't kicking. He knows 1 egg a week is helping him to win the war. The British rations are the rations of a free people. They could get food as they did in peacetime from Canada, Australia. But that would take ships. And the British prefer to use the ships for supplies to Russia, planes from America, troops to the Mediterranean. To win the war, every Britisher is on short rations and has been on short rations for 2 years. Everybody except the children. They get 4 times the eggs that grown-ups do. They get all the
4
oranges
times.
that arrive in Britain.
They are well
And
fed,
practically
yeah.
all of the extra milk. For John Britton is thinking of after the war, of the new world that his children and ours will inherit. A world where there will not only be freedom of speech and freedom of worship, but also freedom from want and freedom from fear.
It is not given to us to peer into the mysteries of the future. Still I avow my hope and faith, sure and inviolate, that in the days to come, the British and American peoples will, for their own safety and for the good of all, walk together in majesty, in justice, and in peace.
This is
Hell
what
yeah.
the British are fighting for. They are an old people, a stubborn people, and sometimes they have moved slowly. But in 3 years of blood and sweat and tears,
They have resisted.
John Britton has found his
They
soul.
persevered.
Now he is tough. Now he is determined, and now he knows where he is marching, to victory and to a new world. He's a good man to have on our team.
Whoa. Yo, this was actually really interesting. I'm guessing it's over now. Yeah. Rationing lasted until the mid-50s. My grandparents remember growing up rationing. They said, you eat what you are giving or go without. That's insane. That's really hard to comprehend because now we're kind of used to food being plenty available, right? But this is a really interesting video. I really want to watch the other ones for the other countries, like Know Your Ally, Know Your Enemy. This one was perfect and perfectly described the America-British relationship at the time. It gave us a brief history of the UK and the World War II efforts that they went through. And I just want to watch the other ones. Guys, I'm really sorry, but I have to end the stream. Something happened and I really gotta go. But I hope you guys are doing well. I hope that you guys are safe. COVID, I can tell you it's tough. So be really careful out there. Try not spreading this thing, or try not to like get it yourself. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And I hope that we can continue this stream either tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, but very soon. All right. I'll see you guys later.